From a creepy cursed doll to evil spirits, there's no scarier creature in the Conjuring franchise than the Nun. The character seriously freaked everyone out. I had nightmares for days. With the prequel coming out in September, it's best to be prepared. So let's talk about how to defeat the Nun. But first, what exactly is the Nun, and why is it so damn scary? In the Conjuring universe, the Nun is a demonic entity known as Valak, which takes the form of a nun to terrorize its victims. Valak is one of the most powerful demons in the hierarchy of hell, and has a long history of evil acts. Valak was summoned by a group of Satanists during the Crusades, and was used to defeat their enemies. But turns out the demon was a bit too powerful, and was eventually trapped in an abbey in Romania by a group of holy men using a powerful artifact called the Blood of Christ. The demon was then contained in a painting, which was later found by the Warrens, the paranormal investigators featured in the Conjuring movie.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, it was so sad.
Basically, Valak is a horrifying villain that challenges the protagonists and tests their faith in the Conjuring universe. The Nun, a spin-off movie from the Conjuring universe, explores the origins of Valak and its connection to the abbey in Romania where it was trapped. The movie shows how Valak takes on the form of a nun to deceive and manipulate its victims, adding to its already frightening presence in the franchise. The terrifying demon is responsible for many sleepless nights all over the world, and it's not just the scary-looking demon part that makes the nun so terrifying. It has an insane set of powers, and it's practically impossible to beat. First off, Valak can possess people, which means it can take over their bodies and make them do all sorts of terrible things. You can't defeat a demon if it has total control of your mind, body, and everything you do, can you? But that's not all. Valak can also shapeshift into different forms, which makes it really hard to know what it's going to do next. One minute, it could be a creepy nun, and the next, it could be a giant spider or something equally horrifying. And if that wasn't enough, Valak can also manipulate reality and create illusions that mess with people's minds. So basically, it's practically impossible to win with this one.
No! You failed. Just as you failed everyone in your life.
It can possess you, shapeshift, and even alter reality. One of the things that makes Valak so scary is that it seems to have special interest in Catholicism and people with strong faith. It's like the demon feeds off their fear and vulnerability. And to make matters worse, Valak is almost impossible to get rid of. It's resistant to traditional exorcism methods, which means that defeating it requires an insane amount of strength. That too, if it doesn't drive you totally crazy with fear first.
Get it?
So how do you beat this unbeatable demon? Firstly, since it's basically meant to test your faith, especially if you're Catholic, you gotta use religious objects against it. In The Conjuring 2, the Warrens use a piece of the True Cross to weaken Valak's power and keep themselves and others safe from its evil. The True Cross is a relic in Catholicism that's supposed to be a piece of the cross that Jesus Christ was crucified on, and it's supposed to be super powerful. The Warrens use it like a shield to block Valak's power and weaken it so they can perform an exorcism on a possessed girl. In The Nun, the main characters use holy water and other religious stuff to protect themselves and try to beat Valak. Holy water is very sacred in Catholicism because it's blessed by a priest and is supposed to be able to repel evil spirits. In the movie, the characters use holy water to fend off Valak's attacks and make it weaker. Other religious things like crosses, rosaries, and prayer books have also been used to fight against demons in the Conjuring universe. These things are also really powerful in Catholicism, and they're often used in exorcisms and other religious rituals to protect against evil spirits. Basically, the use of religious stuff in the Conjuring universe shows that having faith in a higher power might give you some sort of protection against the demon. It might not give you a specific weakness to exploit, but it can help keep you safe from the demon's influence. The Nun is eerie because it's pretty damn indestructible. Sure, you can use religious objects to protect yourself, but you can't use them to defeat Valak, nor can you use exorcism, a trope most commonly used in horror movies of this genre. But while exorcisms may not work on the demon itself, they do work on people possessed by the demon. In the Conjuring universe, exorcisms are used quite often to try and expel demons from people who have been possessed. In The Conjuring 2, for example, the Warrens perform an exorcism on a young girl named Janet who's been possessed by Valak. They use a combination of prayer, holy water, and religious artifacts to weaken the demon's power and attempt to drive it out of the girl's body.
He took all the music the day he left.
I know it must feel like that
No,
sometimes.
I mean, literally, he took all the records. My kids used to love listening to his Elvis collection. I've been through so much.
A similar technique is used in The Nun, where the protagonists perform an exorcism on a young nun named Sister Victoria, who's been possessed by Valak. They use holy water, crosses, and prayer to weaken the demon's power and try to expel it from the nun's body. Exorcisms are a common practice in Catholicism and are believed to be a way of driving out demons and restoring the person to their original state. So even if a good old exorcism with crosses and holy water may not be enough to destroy the nun, it can save innocent people under its influence. And a win is a win, ladies and gentlemen. And if all of that doesn't work, you could try the good old remedy, music. Yup, music has been proven to be a solid weapon against demons, at least in the first Conjuring film. In it, the Warrens used music to weaken the demon's power over the Perron family. Specifically, they played a recording of a Catholic exorcism, which featured religious chanting and music in the house. This helped disrupt the demon's influence and made it weaker, as it couldn't handle the holy music and the power of the prayers being sung. This allowed the Warrens to perform an exorcism on one of the family members that had been possessed. Whether it's the sound of an exorcism or more modern music, the idea is to disrupt the demon's hold on its victims and give the good guys an advantage in the fight against evil. Of course, this music thing only worked against the witch Bathsheba, and the nun hasn't shown any such vulnerabilities. But it's worth a shot. If it worked on Vecna from Stranger Things, it might just work on Valak too. And finally, here's a guaranteed way of defeating the demon. Confront your own demons. Throughout The Nun, characters try different ways of destroying Valak, but nothing ends up getting rid of him for good. But eventually, the characters realize that the nun is a manifestation of their own guilt and fear, which had been brought to life by an ancient ritual performed in the Abbey. So the only way to actually beat it is by confronting and overcoming their own demons by working together and relying on their faith. For example, Sister Irene had a vision of a nun who had previously sacrificed herself to stop Valak. In the vision, the nun told Sister Irene that the key to defeating Valak was her own faith. So basically, there's no weapon to defeat the nun, just your inner strength and faith. Well, there you have it. This is how you defeat the nun.